and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shireen.
And we are continuing with Gothic Literature Month here at Fully Booked. Because it's October. And it's spooky. And we're really close to Halloween at this point. So, you know, everything is creepy. Everything is ominous.
We've been to Universal Studios. We've done all the things.
Oh, yeah. So we are back and we are ready to just stay spooky for the entire rest of this month, pretty much.
I mean, we're always a little spooky, so I guess it's just who we are.
I feel like I'm always mostly spooky. I'm always like 50 to 60% spooky.
But in October, it goes up to
I just kick it up to like 110% at that point because no one looks at me funny if I like wear certain shirts and stuff.
My whole identity.
Yep. So to continue with our coverage of Gothic fiction, we figured why not refer to like the Gothic queen, Shirley Jackson.
Oh, she's awesome.
For our next pick. So today we're going to be talking about We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which was released back in 2018.
Father built this gate to keep us safe, but it could not protect him.
My mom says you and Constance eat rats! Holy witch!
People here believe Constance killed Father.
One of the true, genuine mysteries of our time.
There is such a thing as good taste.
Have you ever tasted arsenic?
What are you doing? I heard Father in his room. I feel him coming back.
I don't know if anybody knew that this existed. I had like seen it.
I certainly didn't.
I did because I remember having seen stuff about it when it came out and when it was being released because it had like a recognizable cast and everything. But I never got around to watching it because I think it was just like not available anywhere that I was looking for it.
Yeah.
And I forgot about it after that until we were looking for ideas for this month. And then I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot about that. Because I think we were talking about Shirley Jackson in general when we were chatting about stuff. And then I was like, what have we gotten other than like Haunting of Hill House adaptations have happened in different ways over the years? Like you've gotten like a House on Haunted Hill and those kinds of things, and like The Haunting from like the late 90s.
Oh yeah, but you said that's terrible.
Oh, I can't
I
even...
suggested that we watch that, and Megan was like, "No, I can't even watch it."
I mean, like it's oh god, you know what? If you want like kind of an okay time, kind of funny, like just to like laugh at, because there's like a lot of super recognizable people in that movie, like Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Owen Wilson, a lot of people. And you're like, oh wow, hey, look at this whole cast of people doing this. But it's another one of those, like we talked about this when we were talking about The Woman in Black. There is nothing that feels period about it at all. It's not a period piece, it's modern, but just because it's got like that Gothic sensibility to it.
Yeah.
And it's nothing very, very different, I should say. Most of the adaptations of The Haunting of Hill House are very different from the source material.
Yeah. Like, but they did do a pretty good job with that one.
No,
as a standalone.
Yes, like in its own way. Like The House on Haunted Hill, which is like a movie from 1959 or something.
Okay.
With Vincent Price. Like technically that's like one of the first adaptations of it. I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, you love Vincent Price.
I love Vincent Price. He's so great. I love that movie. It's very very much of its time, very spooky, ooky, black and white, but like so fun. And the character played by Vincent Price and his wife fucking hate each other, and they've got really great banter back and forth. They're hilarious. They're really good. Then you've got the 90s one, and then you've got obviously the Netflix adaptation as a TV show that Mike Flanagan did.
Was good.
Maybe 4 years ago now, 3-4 years ago, something like that.
Yep.
Which is excellent and also incredibly different because we're treated like to a family story as opposed to like the mediums who technically in the book are the people who come to explore Hill House.
The great thing about Shirley Jackson, like whether it's her short stories or her, novels or whatever, I was saying this to you earlier, she like toes the line around the supernatural.
Yes.
And a lot of what she brings out is like the horror of humanity.
Yes.
Of
and that's
like
something,
people, Yes,
100%.
And the horror of human relationships.
Yes, because that's something that you see a lot with people who have specifically said that they're like inspired by her. Somebody like Stephen King does a lot of that in his work. And I think that he's mentioned her as someone that he really, whose work he really enjoyed when he was younger. So I can understand that just the same, because if you when you read something like It,
Yeah.
for instance,
Never got through that book.
comes to a point where you're like, okay, so obviously, yes, there's a horrible evil entity in Derry that is killing these kids, but then there's another flip side to that of like, are the true villains in this the adults, like the people who let this happen? Because you have to be aware of what's going on.
100%. And like, I go back to my favorite Shirley Jackson short story, which is Louisa, Please Come Home. And it's about this girl who, she runs away from home. She's from a wealthy family. And every year her mom puts a recording on the radio saying, Louisa, please come home. And she runs into this guy who she knew way back when and at some point later on. And he recognizes her and he's like, oh my God, you have to come back. Your mom's been looking for you. And she goes back and her family doesn't recognize her.
Right.
And again, she hears this radio, Louisa, please come home. Like, again. And so it's just like, it gives you chills because you're like, it's like a family relationship, and it's something that just toes the line around something that could
between
happen.
Sort of family melodrama and horror,
exactly,
in and of itself, and that's something that is present in pretty much all of her work, very much including We've Always Lived in the Castle.
Like this one, I found there was a lot of
familial relationship,
and like the whole movie just made me feel really uncomfortable.
Oh yeah,
and like to be honest, I had completely forgotten that this was a Shirley Jackson one.
Yeah,
and the whole time I was watching it, I'm like, what the fuck is happening in this?
Yeah.
Like, is it actual haunting? Like, is it actual like supernatural? Like, is there something in the water that's made everybody kind of crazy?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
But no, the true horror are the familial relationships.
Exactly. That's what the horror is in this, is the family.
That true horror is people to a certain extent. And I think that Shirley Jackson is one of those authors who's tapped into that the way like no one else, in a way that just no one else
100%.
has. Not really.
Yep.
So actually it turns out I wasn't like super aware of. I did read this quite a long time ago, and it took me like 30 minutes into the movie to remember that I was like, oh shit, I have read this. So We've Always Lived in the Castle was originally published in 1962, and it was actually her final work.
Oh yeah, really?
That was ever published, which is interesting.
It makes sense then why it was so spooky with the relationships.
Oh,
Because
100%.
she had had so much practice up until
She'd
this
gotten
point,
to that point.
know?
She was like, oh, this is like a formula that I have now. The film adaptation that we're talking about today was released in 2018. It currently has a rating of 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb and 88% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I go with that.
I mean, that 5.6 rating could be a little higher, I
it's
think.
a little harsh, IMDb. Like,
I don't know. I guess people
y'all
on
don't
IMDb
understand Shirley Jackson, clearly.
I guess people on IMDb just didn't like it very much, that's too bad because actually I will say like overall it's a pretty good adaptation. It's missing elements of tension to an extent that I think and like atmosphere to an extent that it could have probably kicked up a little bit.
I found that it was missing an element of spooky.
Yes.
That's what was missing. Like, it was just like a really messed up family.
Oh, for sure.
And that's why I was watching it going, is this actually gothic? Like, I'm confused. You know?
Which, like, technically it is, but you're like, I don't know. Some questions about it. So, the narrator of the story itself is Mary Katherine Blackwood. Her sister calls her Merricat. And she's 18 years old. They have lived in their estate, like the Blackwood estate, which is this massive fucking house. Obviously, their parents were very wealthy. They've lived there for generations. Basically, the Blackwoods have always lived there, and that's what she says at the beginning. That whole opening, I believe, is taken directly from the novel. Her whole thing where she says, like, you know, my name is Mary Katherine Blackwood. I'm 18 years old, and that's it. The Blackwoods have always, I live with my sister Constance and my uncle Julian. That's it. Like, we've always lived here. That's their whole thing, is that they are fully attached to this estate. They have always been there, and they will always be there. And that is something that comes back a lot. Yeah. So get ready for it. Yeah. So this is given in pieces, sort of a little bit at the beginning, but then over the course of the story as well. But just to kind of give everybody an overview of things, Merricat's older sister, Constance, was 6 years prior to the beginning of the novel. She was tried and acquitted for the murder of their parents, who one evening at dinner were poisoned, basically. And I believe their tea.
Yeah, and Constance cooks. Like, she loves
Oh my
cooking.
God, she never stops.
She
The
never
food she
stops.
makes looks incredible.
Incredible. And so that's why she was, I assume, why she was tried for it, because she's like the cook of
And
the
also,
house.
Merricat was not at the table that evening.
Right.
It seems she wasn't eating with them.
Right.
So she wasn't there. So basically their parents were both there. So was their uncle Julian, who also was poisoned. However, he survived.
Yeah. Is that why he's in a wheelchair?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe it may
missed
have
that.
it may have ailed him to the point where he needed to be in a wheelchair after, and it's also, I think, made him a little kooky. So he's also played by Crispin Glover, so who knows?
I was sitting there watching it, and I'm like, I recognize that nose.
Yeah. I'm always happy to see Crispin Glover in
Yeah, you
anything.
love a bit
so
of Crispin
I fucking
Glover,
love
don't
him.
you?
He's great. Anybody who's willing to have him in their movie and probably put up with what I get the feeling is a really interesting filmmaking experience. Good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah. I think we're all happy about it.
Yeah.
So after the acquittal, after Constance's acquittal, the entire town, basically all the people in this town are fucked up, by the way.
They're really mean.
They're awful.
Very torches and pitchforks
Oh
as well.
man, yeah, it may as well have been storming the Frankenstein castle.
pretty
So they all basically decided that was bullshit, that Constance was guilty, and that she basically got away with murder. It's very much got a Lizzie Borden sensibility to it in a way, where I get the feeling this is probably how people treated Lizzie Borden after her acquittal as well, probably. So every Tuesday, every Tuesday, Merricat takes money. So basically, because of this, Constance never goes into town. Ever. She's it's not really agoraphobia, because she can leave the house and go on the grounds, but she can never leave the yard.
But her sister, so Merricat, is very protective of Constance.
Yes,
of
everything
Connie.
that she does is to protect her sister.
Yes, and she, she's very witchy in her own way, which is where I thought at the beginning we were going for like a coven of witches.
Her little wars.
This
She's also, Merricat's played by Taissa Farmiga, who was in the Coven season
Yes,
of American Horror Story as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so I assume that they were witches, but they're not. She's just a little kooky.
She's just a little kooky, which I think the whole family was. They do make mention of several things about their father, particularly at different times, and I get the feeling he was not a normal or good man, particularly. He was pretty terrible and also very weirdly paranoid. He did not believe in banks, so all of the cash that they have is in one safe at the house.
And also because Merricat buried on the grounds because she has what she thinks are magical wards that she has put up around the property to protect them from anyone. Well,
so
to protect her sister.
To protect, herself and her sister.
Yeah.
Mostly her sister, honestly. Everything's to protect Constance. So, and that's all she cares about, and you're going to see how much she cares about that later. So, she goes into town every week on Tuesday to pick up their supplies. People are horrible to her, except maybe one or two people who are actually still kind to them. There's a woman who works at the local diner who's nice to them. All that kind of stuff. But she's very regularly harassed by people, including this guy who used to date Constance.
Right.
They're pretty shitty to her. One day, basically out of nowhere, because Constance has decided she wants to make a rhubarb pie, something specific, but they're out of sugar and stuff. So she sends Merricat into town on a Thursday, and it really throws her off. She's like, "Oh, it's not my day to go." She has a whole moment about it. She's like, "But it's not my day to go. It's not my day to go." And Taissa Farmiga is really good at this. She's wide-eyed the entire fucking movie.
Oh, she does a great job. I kept having to remind myself that she was in American Horror Story, because I'm like, she does such a good job. She's a whole other character.
She's a whole other person. So of course she goes into town to do this, does spot an odd vehicle that she's never seen before in some person, and has a bad feeling that something is coming. She said that earlier. She was like, I feel like something's going to happen. Something's coming, and we're not protected enough. Lo and behold, when she gets back to the house, their estranged cousin Charles has arrived, basically seemingly out of nowhere. Because, it's not like it's right after the parents died. They died 6 years ago. Where the fuck was he then,
coming up with a good story.
Yeah, exactly. So, in walks Charles, played by Sebastian Stan.
I know. I was hey, look. My thing with Sebastian Stan that I really like, whenever I see him in more of a villain role, first of all, he's incredibly good at those.
He's very good as a villain.
Yeah. For anybody who only knows him from Marvel stuff, watch him do...
He was kind of a half villain in Marvel.
Sort of, I guess, for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was wasn't it mind control? So I feel like it's not the same. Anyway, watch him in this. Watch him in Fresh. So good. Somebody who seems like a nice guy,
but really, really quickly realizes not a nice guy. He's really good at that. Like, it's just below the surface of what you're expecting it to be. So Charles has arrived supposedly to come and help them out under the guise of helping them out, under the guise of, you know, spending time with his cousins, blah, 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 whatever the fuck. Merricat Merricat is not happy about this because she knows that there's something off about this guy. Constance is thrilled to have someone to cater to, basically, because that's like her thing, is that all she wants to do is like take care of other people, cook for them, clean for them, and like make everybody happy all the time. She can't handle
got this really, like, she does such a good job with this big smile.
Yes.
And this like unfocused look in her eye, which is why I was texting you while I was watching this, and I'm like, why is everybody inexplicably crazy in this movie?
Really though, everybody's very well suited to their role. That's it. Constance is played by Alexandra Daddario, who's been in like a bunch of stuff,
Mayfair Witches.
Yeah, Mayfair Witches. More recently, she was in the first season of White Lotus.
She's been in a lot.
She was in those shitty Percy Jackson movies several years ago. She's been in a bunch of stuff. She's in this, I can't remember the name of the movie to save my life. Somebody listening might know and might shout it at me. Where it's 80s set, and she plays she's like this group of girls who pick up these guys on the way to like a rock concert in the 80s and try to basically summon the devil, pretty much. I think it's something like We Summon the Devil or whatever it is. Anyway, whatever. It's like a demonic like possession thing, but like a really fun rock and roll one. And she's like one of the like leaders of that group. She's hilarious. Really, really good. And she's one of those like people in Hollywood with like family members doing stuff. So her brother was in the Shadowhunters TV series. He played Alec. They're related. That's her brother.
Yeah, he's so cute.
Two beautiful people, basically.
Beautiful people. Way to go. She was in The Choice.
Oh yeah. She's the girl who's always trying to go out with Thingy, like the one who likes him, but he's never really that interested in her.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's called We Summon the Darkness.
We Summon the Darkness, thank you. It's very good. It's so fun.
She's been in a lot of stuff.
She's been in a lot of stuff.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, two beautiful people.
Her and her brother, two like stunningly beautiful people. I wouldn't be able to look at them next to each other. Yeah. So that's all she wants, is to like have someone around to like make them happy, and like the potential for like love and for other things, which creates, in my opinion, a really uncomfortable relationship
with her cousin.
Yeah,
I was like watching it,
which I was like, okay, it's the 1960s, not the 1860s. What's happening right now?
What's going on? Like, you're really not helping everybody else's view of your family.
No. So Charles fully inserts himself into like the family and everything that's going on, and decides he's going to stay for a while. Mm-hmm. No, everyone, really, the only person who's happy about this is Constance. Julian's very thrown off by it because apparently Charles looks quite a bit like the dead father.
Oh, right, okay.
So he keeps calling him John.
Oh, right, okay.
Partially because he's a little kooky-ooky as well, but also because I think of like their physical similarities too. He keeps referring to him as John, and Charles is like, I'm not John. And he gets really annoyed about it after a while.
He's got a bit of a temper. Yeah,
and Julian's also, of course, in the middle of writing what I can only assume is a book about what happened to the family. It seems as though, because the way he's referring to it and what he speaks about in sort of conjunction with it really has to do with like what happened to the parents and like the poisoning and all that kind of stuff. And he seems to have trouble differentiating what's real from what's going on in his head.
Yeah, he was like an interesting character, and I really had a hard time following anything he was saying. Like, which I know was the intent,
for sure.
Like beyond what you normally struggle with, you know?
Yeah, it definitely goes off on a tangent. And it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly that Charles acts a particular way with Constance, but then he berates Julian over like him being like stupid apparently, or like, you know, like crazy, and is rude to Merricat as well pretty regularly. She's like not having it. She's like, this motherfucker needs to leave. And she tries to get, she's so fun. She tries to get Constance to do it, and Constance is like, no, I want him to stay because I have no mind of my own right now. Anyway.
She doesn't say that, does she?
No, she doesn't. It's just, but she does want him to stay. She's there and she's like, no, it's fine. She never wants to ruffle any feathers at all.
Big smiles.
Big smiles all the time through every uncomfortable interaction.
Yeah.
So Merricat is the one who's really like, go away.
Yeah.
Like, you need to leave. And he's like, no, I'm not leaving. And you can tell that he's started to ask questions about like, the money from mom and dad. Like, where is that?
Yeah.
Where is it stored and everything?
And Constance says, oh, it's in the safe. And I'm like, why are you telling him that?
Because she wants to make everyone happy. She's a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Like,
to the nth degree.
to a really, really extreme extent. This is all in the course of like a week, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like it just kind of escalates from there, right? Like there's like, the scenes kind of keep progressing where it's like, Charlie is like helping, and I'm using like air quotes, like he's helping around the yard and he's helping around the house.
Helping fix that step that takes him like 2 days to do. You're like, okay, it wouldn't have taken that long.
No, and like everything, like then he starts like realizing that there's stuff dug up, like buried in the yard, and he finds a gold watch, and he's really angry
wears
about
the gold watch. Yeah,
and he
so
wears the gold watch.
Of course, so he gets this gold watch because Merricat's like burying it in the garden because she does that shit.
She thinks she's a witch.
She thinks she's a witch, and she's using it to like protect everybody, right?
Yeah.
And she's putting it in as one of her wards, and he's like, this is like a fully gold watch. You could get a lot of money for this. And Constance, you can even see, is just kind of like, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't need it.
Yeah, she says, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's okay.
It's fine.
And he's like, but it's gold. And she's like, but we don't need it.
We don't need
have
it.
plenty of money.
And
then he finds, like, a whole box of, like, silver coins as
and
well.
he's like, what the fuck? Like,
what the
why
fuck is this?
Like, why is this buried? Why aren't we...
buried? And she's like, it's fine. And she gives him, like, a handful of it. It makes me so uncomfortable.
It's
like,
uncomfortable.
all these scenes, they make me so uncomfortable. Both from him yelling at them.
Yeah.
And her just like giving him things,
it'll calm him down, so I'm just gonna give him what he wants.
It just makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah. It escalates to a point where, first of all, like, he takes that watch and he wears it, and I guarantee he keeps those coins as well. It escalates to a point where Merricat fully confronts him and tells him to leave, and he says he's never leaving.
Which sets her off.
Which she, oh boy, which she decides that she's going to get rid of him by like putting like taking a bunch of stuff from the woods where she like hides all her shit, and she like puts like dirty stuff all over his bed and everything, and it's like really gross. And then they get into it, and there's like this really uncomfortable physical altercation that winds up ensuing. So what we see her do ahead of this is like he's got a lit pipe or a cigarette or something, and she takes it and throws it into the waste paper basket, and you're like, okay, something's gonna catch fire. Got it. Okay.
Again, gothic. Fire all the time.
She goes down to dinner, starts doing like a weird spiel, which she's done a couple of times about different types of poisons from certain types of mushrooms, I believe it is. Yeah. And how fast acting or slow acting they are and what they do to you. He fully loses his cool at this point. Basically is dragging her up the stairs almost by her hair and is like probably going to beat the shit out of her, I get the feeling.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like anyway. But is stopped on the stairs when he, like, I think feels, smells, and realizes that something's going on, climbs up the stairs and sees that his bedroom is on fire, basically, and starts freaking out. He's like, fire, we need to leave. Connie, we need to leave.
Yeah, he only cares about Constance because he knows that, like, she knows where the money is.
And he knows that she's gullible enough to give it to him, and she's, like, the one that he can get. The other two are not interested in him at all.
Yeah.
But then, of course, like, both of them are panicking because they don't leave that house. They don't leave that house, so they don't want to leave or go anywhere. So he leaves them there and takes off for a while, and
no, doesn't he try and open the safe before that?
He does. He tries to, but he tries to. Oh no, after that. I think he comes running back in. Yeah, because it's when everyone's in there.
Oh right, okay.
Doing everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he takes off. And tries to like go warn people that there's a fire or whatever. The woman, the only nice woman in town who works in the diner, along with a couple of Constance's, their parents' friends.
Yeah.
This woman named Helen and her husband, who were friends with her mom back in the day before she passed away, who do go and see Constance regularly for tea and everything. Alert the fire department, who do show up, and they do put the fire out, but it's like there's so much anger and tension that's been built up in this town that they're like, a bunch of fucking witches and they killed their parents and blah, 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 blah. So these people ransack the entire house immediately after. They break things. They steal things. There's like people running out with a couch. Like, what's happening?
I know, it's awful.
They drag the two girls out of the house and are basically like, it looked like there was about to be like a public beating of some sort happening. But Helen, this woman who was friends with their family, her husband has been trying to stop people. He's like, fucking stop.
Yeah.
Stop right now. And shoots a gun into the air because he's like, everybody stop to like defuse the situation. And then he informs everyone that he's found that Julian has died of smoke inhalation during the fire, because he basically, I think he wanted to die. He went into his bedroom, locked the door, and sat there with his papers that he was using to write the book. So I'm pretty sure that Julian didn't want to be around anymore.
Poor guy. What a way to die.
He had a really sad, I found he had a really sad arc.
Yeah,
anyway.
He did. Like, he was just miserable.
All the time.
And probably, like, the fact that Charlie showed up and looked like his brother, I guess, it was like a haunting for him.
Yeah, I think it really set him off a lot, because you can see that he gets worse. Like, he's okay with the girls, but he gets a lot worse after Charles shows up.
Definitely.
So after all of this is done, basically everybody disperses because they're like, oh, okay, someone's dead. Oh, okay, we're fucking horrible. Yes. yes, you are. The girls, in the meantime, have run away from the house for a period of time. They go into the woods and sleep there. And they go back to the house the next morning and are like, well, we're not leaving. So because again, they've always been there. Yeah. So they start cleaning up. And then
Charles shows up again.
And then the other people in town show up with their little sympathy packages of food, being like,
that's
hey,
right. Yes.
Sorry, we maybe tried to kill you and desecrated like your home and everything. Hey, sorry about that.
Yeah, and all this like food starts
Here's a
piling
pie.
up, and like the girls are just not opening the door. Like they keep knocking on the door and they keep leaving this food, and they're just not opening the door.
And then Charles shows back up.
Yeah.
Because he, of course, still wants Constance to go with him, and he still wants to get the money from her.
For sure.
He fucking stresses me out when he goes. They're in the kitchen, and he goes to the window near the kitchen and is like, and he goes and he like sticks his head in the window because like one of the window panes is broken, and he's just like, I want us to be friends again. And you're like, oh God, no, get out of here.
No, he's really scary.
It's really scary.
It's very Shining.
Yeah, it has like a little like moment like that.
But I found it really, like, just to rewind a little bit, like after this has all happened and the girls are in the kitchen, like they've just made their way back into the house. Everything's
cleaned
a mess.
up,
They're like just before they start cleaning up, and like they're kind of absorbing what happened. Yeah. And Constance just keeps saying, "We'll never talk about it again. We'll never talk about it again. We'll never talk about it again." And it's just such a perfect moment, like for anybody who's from like a little bit of like a very broken family. Yeah. You'll know that this is something that families do. Like when there's been trauma, when there's been something really bad that's happened. Yep. Everybody loves brushing it under the rug and pretending that it never happened when you're in a situation that this happens all the time, you know?
Yeah, and it's true that also, you know what, it's true, I'm skipping over plot points here. When they are cleaning up and stuff, they have a conversation in which we finally learn, because Merricat admits that she's the one who poisoned their parents.
That's right, yeah.
Because their father was pretty horribly abusive towards Constance. I think sexually, possibly.
Because I would believe that.
Because Constance says something like, our father was very wicked to me. And I was like, oh, I hate that. I hate that very much. I hate that. So she makes a comment like that, and Merricat says, yeah, I did it. And Constance says, I know you did. And she said, you never take sugar. So I knew that I could put it in the sugar and it would be fine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Merricat keeps saying throughout the whole movie is, I must protect Constance. I must protect Constance.
And we've learned that she has been protecting Constance for a very long time. So, so Charles has showed back up. He wants
Constance,
or he wants the Connie, and then the money that comes along with her. Basically, he breaks in and basically attacks her. And Merricat proceeds to take... Constance has this obsession with Italy. Going to Italy, she speaks some Italian, and of course Charles uses that to his advantage because he also speaks Italian, where he's like, oh, I can teach you, we can go to Italy together, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and she has this snow globe with the Leaning Tower of Pisa in it. And when he attacks Constance, Merricat takes that snow globe and kills him. She smashes it on his head.
Oh, she smashes him good. She gives him a good smash. He falls over dead.
And then a second one
smashes
with,
him again.
Like, with the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So I was like, oh. Yeah. And then they bury him in the garden. So good fertilizer. Hey.
That's it.
Good riddance to bad rubbish.
And then they just keep living together.
They've cleaned the remains of the house and everything. Every once in a while, some kids show up because of course it's like, the old witch house now, basically. And all that Merricat has to do is go outside onto the front step, and they freak the fuck out and leave them alone. Yeah. And then that's the end of the movie. That's it. So it's like they're never leaving. They've always lived there, and they're always going to continue to live there.
We've always lived in the castle. Yeah. And that's it. Like, you're watching this movie, and the whole time I was like, I don't actually know what's going on here, but there isn't anything going on other than what's going on, you know? And it's like and that actually, I think because of the way it was filmed and like, you know, the storyline itself, you're expecting there to be like some sort of supernatural element or like something more to happen, but there doesn't need to be more that happens. Like we said at the beginning, the horror is in the relationships, you know?
With the people. That's
with the people.
That's
you know?
exactly it. No, it's true. And I think that because of things like The Haunting of Hill House and whatnot, we have an expectation that everything that she's, you know, written will be like that, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
That you can write very effective horror that has nothing to do necessarily with a haunting per se.
Yeah.
Or that, you know, and you can, I guess if you look at it that way, they're haunted by their family and by their past.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. They're
really,
haunted by their trauma.
There is a haunting. There's just no ghost.
Yep.
Is pretty much what it is. But overall, I don't know. I thought it was quite a good adaptation. Like you said, I think it's missing some of the spooky element to it. And to a certain extent, that would have added like additional atmosphere to like a lot of the scenes, which I think would have probably like given it a little bit more to go off of. But yeah, no, otherwise it was a good adaptation and a really interesting, different kind of look at Gothic fiction because it wasn't like there's a ghost in the house.
And I think that's what threw me. Yeah. Because we did The Woman in Black as well. And I think I just had this expectation
that they were all going to be
like again, like Haunting of Hill House. Like there's always like a haunted house and there's always ghosts and stuff. Yeah. And I was texting you going, what the fuck is happening in this movie? Like, what is going on? Like, why is everybody crazy? And I don't know why.
And I don't understand why.
But, you know, the more it's like you just kind of need to like trust the process. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, this is really good, actually.
You can get through and you can have like a pretty satisfying ending to the story, even without those elements added to it.
Yeah.
So have you guys seen this adaptation of We've Always Lived in the Castle? I think it might be the only adaptation that exists right now. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. If you have, you can let us know over on Instagram or Threads or TikTok at fullybookedca. You can also check out our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/bookwaswaybetter. And if you are still here with us for Spooky Month, which I hope you are, please feel free to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening because it really helps us get the episodes out in front of more people. But until next week, guys, keep on reading.
Thanks, everyone.